Welcome, viewers, and welcome, Ignacio. We are here for a coffee break on the sea, and we are chatting about a topic that's relevant and new, but has been new for some years now. So it's gig economy and technology and work and what's going on finally in the world of employment with all the technological stuff. We have Ignacio Funes de Rioja here to maybe guide us on what's new and what's been going on in Argentina and all over the world on this interesting topic. So, hi, Ignacio.
Hello, Marco. Well, it's great being here together in this fantastic location, and briefly discussing a little about what's developing in Europe, what's developing probably in South America. So maybe you want to start telling us what's going on there in Europe, and we can share differences and similarities on the developments we're having down in South America. What do you think?
Yes, that's perfect because the first thing I want to say it's global and it's happening. And technology always had something to do with employment and with work. It's something we cannot escape. Europe, we've seen many things happening around gig economy in Europe, and many things on a social level. And comments were not always technical. It was also a matter of our everyday life witnessing something happening. Of course, we've had court cases, we've had the regulators chipping in, and the reality is we are learning and the system is adjusting to this reality. So cases are litigated through, but in a way, this way of making business and this way of working is in our lives and probably, possibly, to stay and has been for some years now. Because if we turn back, it was 2016, more or less 2015 when
Sure.
this started. And what about your country?
It's impressive. Well, my first approach to this, my first analysis when I started analyzing the situation was, okay, this doesn't fit the typical ways in which we classify work. So it was really challenging because where do we put this? We are so used to fit things in boxes that already exist, and we needed to think about something new. So we started discussing in Argentina and in other countries of our region, okay, what do we do with it? And the first approach we got some very high level politicians was, yeah, we agree that something new and that it wouldn't fit and that we need to pass new type of regulation if we want to take the best of it without damaging or impeding this to develop. Because by the end of the day, in our region at least, most of people think this creates opportunities, lots of opportunities to people to have a a job, a second occupation alternative, a source of income to complement studies or to complement a main job. So the general view is positive. However, it's been so challenging to find consensus on how to regulate it and not over-regulate it in order to make it impossible, and what's the right level of protection. And as you know, we in Argentina love collective bargaining, and I have been much pro saying, okay, this is not the typical job, dependent job. It's independent. It needs to have some level of protection, and collective bargaining might be the most flexible way to do it because it will be changing. Because change occurs so rapidly lately that
Yes.
collective bargaining might be the best alternative if you find the right union or the right way to organize the people in order to be well represented in that negotiation. What do you think?
That's interesting. And in Italy, something similar went on. And in Europe too. In Italy, the legislator was very enthusiastic about legislating on this. And the tricky part is that, and it's very interesting what you say about fitting things in boxes, because in the end, our instinct is to fit it in a box. So we say, it's new, let's not fit it in a box. But then when we go there, you see the legislator and you see, in general, the system trying to fit this in a box. So in Italy, we've had to deal with new legislation passed exactly on gig economy, which pointed to a way forward, but without really pointing it. I have to say, there have been a big confusion for
Mm-hmm.
years, and now things are adjusting themselves in a way to find not a solution, not a clear-cut solution, but a way to deal with this. And certainly, technology is not stopping, and the fact that technology is becoming central also in organizing other kinds of work which were not traditionally in the gig economy context.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, we are finding a way to coexist. And the public, which played a great role, I don't know about Argentina, but in Europe, public opinion and newspapers played a great role in, you know,
Definitely.
pointing the way.
At the very beginning, probably the media was a little skeptic about it and reluctant to understand this was something new. But lately, even in the last weeks, there was some intention of a few provinces to create some type of registry in order for the workers of the gig economy to be able to be inspected and controlled by the state province without classifying the type of work they do. However, the resistance of the workers themselves was huge.
Really?
People do not want to be restricted. The feeling was, okay, we are free here. This is something we do because we want the way we want, and we do not want anybody to put their hand in our pockets, to take a piece of what we're making here because this is fair and we're fine with it. And spontaneously, many people came to the streets, in different provinces,
Really?
not only the Buenos Aires province, to complain about the intention to somehow regulate it. This was only a registry, but they understood this was a way in order to regulate them, and they do not want to be regulated in any way by the state. Of course, there's a harsh feeling right now. We are under a crisis.
Yeah.
And whenever there's a crisis, people, are very skeptical about what the politicians might do to them.
Of course, they don't trust
This
it.
is part
Yes.
of the context.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because that's the reality of the job. What you were describing is people doing it and being aware of what they did and taking to the streets to tell this. And I think, in a way, all that went around this gig economy stuff is a very good example of dynamics in the workplace today and in politics today and in courts today. So the system reacting to a new thing, adjusting to it, litigating it, giving opinion, and in the end coming out at the other end, hopefully stronger.
Definitely. Some years ago, we started working with the government, like 3 years ago, on a piece of regulation for it. So the ministry came and say, well, this is really new. We need to be very flexible, modern, and so on. Then some technicians appear on the table, and they wanted to create some figures that did not even exist on the employment contract law, like exclusivity. And said, we representing the platforms for the gig economy, the companies, we didn't requested that, but it was the technicians who wanted to make this figure fit in a box even more strict than the one we have for employment, saying, okay, those workers need to compromise their exclusivity to the companies. And this is an example on how we need to learn from what's really going on and not try to make everything fit in the box, some kind of boxes, or try to force reality into pieces of legislation we think would be very smart. Because people will resist. People, they're carrying the packs and the boxes and the brands, or as many
Yeah.
companies as you can imagine, and they're happy like that because people demand flexibility right now. They
Of
want to
course.
be free, especially probably after COVID. People demand much more liberty than what they probably demanded before because they've been restricted in South America in particular for such a long time and in such a harsh way. So, we need to be very careful in not affecting the rights of people who want to be free to offer their time, their services, and decide what to do, when, and for. And that does not imply that this will replace traditional work. This is
Of course,
just something
yeah,
more.
yeah, and interpreting something, which is our job in a way, and fitting it in a box are two very different operations. The first one helps the context, whereas forcing stuff in shapes that don't exist doesn't. Well, thanks. It was very interesting. A very
Always.
good cup of coffee. A traditional one, but a very good one.
It's always great discussing and chatting with you and exchanging views. And thanks a lot.